whether or not there would be a government shutdown based on the funding debate. We're also watching in Washington. He said he does not believe that will happen, saying he's talked with leaders of both parties in the Senate. But let's get back to the issue at hand that affects every American in this country, and that is COVID and this new variant. Now, the second case, not a surprise, but we do continue to follow these numbers. The second case, this one in Minnesota, a man who had been to New York City for a convention at the Javits Center, some 53,000 people at that convention. So we'll track that throughout the day. Again, that wasn't a surprise. But here's what we learned from the president about this winter strategy as we approach these coming months and with this new variant. Expanding access to boosters in this country. You heard the president there talk about the 100 million Americans eligible for boosters now. And he gave a number, and this is important if you have a pen, and we'll repeat this again in a moment. He said you could text your zip code to 438829. 438829. It's right there at the bottom of your screen. Dr. Jen actually tested it while we were on the air here, and right away it's revealed on her phone the pharmacies in her neighborhood where you can get a booster, and it actually told you which vaccines, depending whether you got Pfizer or Moderna, where to go. That was very helpful. Let's go back to that screen now. Number two, expanding vaccinations for children. He said it's the most common question he gets as president. He said they continue to work very hard on that. But for those parents who had not had their children vaccinated who are eligible, he urged them to do that. This was key as well. He talked about free at-home testing kits. So many of you have wondered when you have a cough or if you're sneezing, if you could test yourself. Apparently, he hopes that this will make that much easier. And he said private insurers will foot the bill for those at-home rapid tests. Extending public transit mask requirements. We have mentioned that here on our air, extending that through March now. They had hoped to end that in January, but obviously with this new variant, they want people to keep their masks on planes and trains and mass transit in this country. And then stringent testing for international travelers, talking about getting tested within 24 hours before getting on a flight to come here to the U.S. That would be a shorter window with which to show up with a positive test. He said that will help buy some time. That's the language we've been hearing from the president all along. I want to bring in Dr. Jen Ashton. First and foremost, this push for boosters, you have said it, Dr. Fauci has said it. At least anecdotally, and it's still very early, but at least anecdotally from the second case in the U.S., the first one yesterday, both were vaccinated, both had mild symptoms and have since recovered. That is encouraging.
It's encouraging, David, and it shows us that these vaccines are still doing their job in preventing severe illness. They're keeping people largely out of the hospital. They're saving lives. We've known since the end of the summer that they may not actually prevent infection. We don't yet know how they affect transmission. But again, we can deal with this virus if it just means, we have to isolate for 10 days. Keeping people out of the hospital and saving lives is key. And again, we have to await the data on how these vaccines are holding up against Omicron.
You and I have talked about this at length, Dr. Jen, and we always try to reassure the audience at home that we do have the tools, and we should remind ourselves that we as a country have learned how to deal with this, unfortunately, because we've been at this for a couple of years now.
Yeah, that's right. And we've made incredible progress. And in one area in particular, which is part of the president's plan, this greater access to at-home testing. We remember talking about how inaccurate these rapid antigen tests were initially. Now their accuracy rests between 80 and 90%. You don't have to go all the way back in your nose for that uncomfortable swab. And the fact that people will be able to use these tests at home and then change their behavior accordingly. If you were to get a positive, err on the side of caution, believe that positive, and isolate until further notice. That is a very powerful weapon in our fight against this virus.
And lastly, we come down to these three basic questions. Is it more transmissible? It could be. We don't know yet. Will it be more severe? We have to wait for the data. But back to the point that you and Dr. Fauci have made, that if you've had both vaccine shots plus the booster, which we heard the president talk about again there is a belief within the medical community that that will have, as Dr. Fauci said, the spillover effect. Even if it isn't directed right to this variant, it will most certainly help protect you.
That's right. And remember, to compare it to the influenza vaccine, some protection better than none. And while we learn about how the many mutations that Omicron has are affecting its behavior, some mutations are neutral, some may be worse for us, some may be actually better for us. We have to double down on what we know is our best tool in our toolbox, and that is vaccination.
All right. Always great to have you by my side, Dr. Jen Ashton. Let's get to our chief White House correspondent, Cecilia Vega, with us actually here in New York, which is a nice change of pace for us. And this White House, this president knows that they have to stay ahead of this, that this is a fast-moving situation. Again, these first 2 cases, they were expected, but they will make headlines.
Yeah, and the White House is saying clearly they've pulled out all the stops on this one. They believe, as Dr. Ashton is saying, that they now have the tools in place to really confront this and address this as we wait for these next couple of weeks and more information to come in. I think it's really important to point out here, David, what the president is not saying today. This is a really big deal. He is not talking about more stringent shutdowns. He is not talking about lockdowns. He's not talking about impacts on schools, pulling children out of school and shutting down whole classrooms. This is all designed, these measures that he is laying out here and the politics of this, to keep the economy running. That has been a problem for him. They have said very clearly they thought America was back. This is a problem for them politically. They want to get out front, but you're not looking at major restrictions as a result of these changes, not yet anyway. They don't foresee that to happen.
Very important point. The president signaling the country will stay open, schools will stay open, and reminding everyone that we do have important and powerful tools already in these vaccines and the booster, and helping people try to get the word out that you can text your zip code to 438829. And we tested it here with Jen, and immediately right on your phone it shows you your local pharmacies where you can find that booster. Our coverage will continue at ABC News Live, abcnews.com, and of course I'll be back with the entire team here for World News Tonight. I'm David Muir in New York. We'll see you then. Good day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.